I'm Gene Bailey, and you're watching FlashPoint. Listen, you know what? There's a lot of shadow banning going on, a lot of censoring going on, and as we get closer to the election, you need to be aware of how you can watch FlashPoint. Now, we will always be at our home website, govictory.com/flashpoint, and we're also hosting all of our programs live right there on Rumble, rumble.com. You can just find the FlashPoint channel there, and you can see all of our past shows as well as the ones that we do live. They will always be hosted right there. Let me welcome Pastor from Thousand Oaks, Rob McCoy. Hello, Rob. Good to see you, sir.
You too, Gene. It's a blessing to be with you.
Yeah. Now, today is the 80th anniversary of D-Day. What does that mean to you?
Well, you had a generation of young men and women, Point du Hoc and Omaha Beach, where they took back the Western European mainland as they landed in France, and they assembled in the British Isles and came over across the Channel and took back and secured Western Europe from Nazi Germany. But it began right there. It was a reversal, and it was Eisenhower. It was a profound, largest land invasion. It was amazing and very successful, and all by American ingenuity and all the allies combined. And what it means to me is America has the wherewithal to rise to the occasion and to defeat those who would destroy the freedom of the individual.
Right. In fact, we call it the greatest generation. But, the reality is what you just said was the whole point. We can get there again. We can be there again. But to compare what we're seeing now to then doesn't even come close when we see what's happening in our own government. In fact, let's talk about what happened today at Omaha Beach. Charlie Kirk posted this, an event honoring 80th anniversary of D-Day. Jill Biden quickly escorts Joe Biden away. Why would she do that? Watch. All right, so you see Macron there. You can tell he didn't quite know what's going on here. But this wasn't the first thing that happened. Let me show you what happened leading up to this, right when they first got there. Watch.
7, 6, 5.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Honorable Lloyd J. Austin.
I think he was looking for a chair, but you can see here, Rob, this is not the impression we want to leave to all of our allies in the world. No. Is that of Joe Biden?
You have almost 100-year-old veterans making the journey across the Atlantic to commemorate the 80th anniversary. And they're more spry and coherent than our president is. It's sad.
It is sad, and that's why we have to. We must take this serious. And let me say this to all you watching, because I get always a bunch of hate text and mail about like, well, why are you picking on Joe Biden because he's old? No, it has nothing to do with age. This has to do with cognitive ability, and there's many people older than Joe Biden that have great cognitive ability. So let's get age out of it. However, as you get older, your propensity to be able to have some issue increases. Having said that, this is the leader of the free world. And the leader of the free world, or we believe we're still the leader of the free world, must have the ability to stand in that moment. Because when that president stands at attention, when he stands in the midst of world leaders, he's standing for you. He's standing for me. He's standing for your parents, your sisters, your brothers, for all of your family tree. He's representing. And that's not the representation that we want to see. This is why November must come quickly. Let me bring in Turning Point USA reporter Jonathan Sho. He's an award-winning journalist joining us today. We're going to talk about Venezuelan street gangs in Seattle. But Jonathan, I want to get your take here. You've watched what we just talked about. What does this say to you when we see a president respond this way?
I mean, I think you and your guest summed it up best. It's really sad. I think there is a clear distinction. It's not about age. It's about cognitive ability and also, competence at this point. Does President Biden still have the ability to lead this country as the world watches during one of the most challenging times in our history. So we'll find out in November, but right now the optics look horrible.
They do look horrible. All right, let's get into what you're here for. Let me play this piece about what's going on in Seattle. Watch.
Tren de Aragua, also known as TDA, is a ruthless Venezuelan street gang.
They are engaging in murder for hire,
playing a dominant role in human smuggling and drug trafficking.
And experts say migrant gang members are infiltrating communities pretty much all across the country.
Authorities say they're now running wild in major U.S. cities like New York, Chicago, and Miami.
And maybe forming alliances with gangs that are already established here.
After illegally coming over the border.
She was like an angel.
The brother of Laken Riley's accused killer is linked to this bloodthirsty crew.
He's here illegally, that he might not have been here had we had secure borders.
Some TDA members are also suspected of infiltrating the migrant camp at Riverton Park United Methodist Church in Tukwila, just a few miles away from Seattle. We've obtained this internal email sent out by Puget Sound fire officials in April, warning first responders about this serious threat, saying firefighters are only allowed to enter church grounds if they are accompanied by 3 police units after what's being called increased activity.
I don't have any information about the gang threat as far as how serious it is.
Emergency crews are also being advised to wear ballistic vests. How did you get this intel?
There has been some discussions between firefighters in the street and members of Tukwila Police.
What about the gang connection? Pastor Jan Bolerjack says she's aware of the new safety concerns, but did not want to go into details.
Is this a safe place for the other migrants as well?
Honestly, I had no idea.
Then there are the neighbors across the street.
They should have let us know.
This woman, who only goes by Darlene,
I haven't been notified of nothing,
says there are still numerous 911 calls to Riverton each week.
Puget Sound fires there as well.
Records show the church continues to drain the most police resources in the city for incidents like fights and stabbings, but it's unclear if any are related to TDA.
And the fire truck will come. And
Darlene says if the fire department is taking precautions, at the very least, neighbors should have also been told about any potential threats.
Especially if there's gang members over there.
But Tukwila City spokesperson Brad Harwood says they have received 0 confirmed reports of Tren de Aragua at the church and sent us a statement that reads in part, notifying neighbors based on rumors or speculation is inappropriate and irresponsible. And goes on to say the police escorts are available primarily due to the large number of individuals at the encampment.
A lot of people have moved and left.
However, Maurice Granbay says there is no doubt illegal immigrants associated with TDA are now embedded.
Do you think some of the recent fights at Riverton are gang-related?
Oh, certainly.
Granbay is an outreach worker and has helped migrants move into area motels.
What do you do when you got 0 opportunities for work, you got 0 opportunities to advance yourself?
He says young men without anything to do all day at the camp are being actively recruited to join the gang.
What's happened is you've concentrated a bunch of people together and you've allowed them to begin to drift into the fringes of society.
Okay, Jonathan, you're an award-winning journalist. You've seen lots of stories before. You produced a lot. Let me ask you this. What does this look like to you when you're in a situation where there's obvious stuff going on, yet people don't even want to go on camera and admit that they're bringing police in? What does that say to you?
I'll just say it like it is. It looks like a cover-up. It looks like city officials, especially the police, they don't want to admit what's really happening. Yet at the same time, you have Puget Sound fire officials saying, we're not going to take any chances. They're sending out official emails right now to their crews. They're being asked to now call in police escorts and wear ballistic vests. Something's off.
Something is off. Let me get your way in here, Rob. You see stuff like this. It really... You kind of, on one hand, you think, we thought we were kind of past a lot of this stuff. But, you saw the lady across the street there. She's obviously upset. Nobody's telling her anything. It's right in her front yard. What does it say to you?
It tells me that there's bad leadership in that state and people shouldn't put up with it anymore. When you looked at El Salvador, it had the highest murder rate of any nation in the world. and a change of leadership, and now they've dropped their murder rate is below the United States. It can be resolved if you just remove those people. This is about citizenry being the target, and as a result of bad leadership, and they need to remove that.
Yeah, they do need to remove it. All right, let me go back. Jonathan, let me go back to you. Since you did this report, are we seeing anything else? Is there any updates to this story? Anything changing with this whole situation?
Well, Tukwila PD it came out with a statement after some local media started making inquiries as well. Again, they weren't denying any of my facts in the reports, but they were reiterating once again they haven't had any confirmation of TDA members actively operating in the camp. But let me remind your audience, Tukwila, by the way, which is a few miles outside of Seattle, Washington, this illegal immigrant camp's been operating since late last year. So at any point, TDA could have infiltrated this camp. And again, by our sources, by outreach workers who are there on the ground every single day, they say they have seen TDA members, and the migrants there are also fearful. Again, they may be targeted and possibly their kids now recruited to join this gang. I mean, look, it's the same MO with street gangs here in America as Venezuela or anywhere else in the world. They offer something like family, right? These kids, these young people who are at this camp all day, they have nothing to do. They can't find jobs. They're going to want to be a part of something. They want meaning. They want purpose. And right now, the TDA gang is offering that.
Well, it sure is. All right, let me show you this clip. It's Jesse Waters talking about coaching the migrants. Watch.
Joe Biden says his immigration executive order would crack down on illegals entering the country, but he lied. Just hours after Biden signed the order, leaked emails obtained by the New York Post revealed the real plan. Have ICE agents coach the migrants to squeeze their asylum claims through Biden's loopholes. Biden's acting ICE director is expanding the agency's definition of the word fear, telling agents that pretty much anybody can be afraid and claim asylum, because if migrants say they're scared, they can get through Biden's shutdown border. They don't even have to say they're scared. They just have to look scared. The memo says fear may be manifested verbally, non-verbally, or physically. Hysteria, trembling, shaking, unusual behavior, changes in tone of voice, incoherent speech patterns, panic attacks, or an unusual level of silence. Are you scared, Jose? That's an unusual level of silence. You're scared, you're in. ICE also plans to educate the illegals on how to game the system, playing videos while migrants wait in line about how to finagle asylum claims, just like at the airport. They also post signs in over a dozen languages, including Chinese, Punjabi, and Quiche, an indigenous Central American language that I just learned about. Biden's turning ICE into TSA agents, waving migrants through with barely a pat-down. They don't even have to take their shoes off.
All right, let me go to you, Rob. We're going to get to what happened in California, but I want you to comment to this. I mean, this is, now they're coaching and telling the migrants what to do. Now, this is off the heels of the Biden regime doing the executive action of 1,500 a day, which really, I don't know what they thought they were going to accomplish with that other than a PR opportunity, which I don't think the American public is buying whatsoever. What do you think?
No, the American public is not buying it. And in addition, they know what's up. I mean, we went through this in the last election. They're gaming it in some capacity, whether they want to increase their representation in the lower house and the Congress, and trying to get illegals to vote. But what's fascinating to me, Gene, is we're watching illegals come into this country. They're not being vetted. And in El Salvador, which I brought up earlier, all these law-abiding citizens that once found refuge in the United States are returning to El Salvador, and MS-13 is remaining in the United States and not going back to El Salvador because they're cracking down on that. And here in the United States, we're a refuge for all the bad, right, and the good is exiting. It's tragic.
Yeah, and Jonathan, let me go back to you. You know, in your report there, what stood out to me, other than just the horrible facts of it all, is the pastor, the lady that didn't want to talk to the camera, when I'm like, why would you, what good possible reason would there be to not talk to the camera and say something? And then the fact that the fire department didn't want to even admit, they didn't want to talk about anything. And they're like, well, you know, nothing more than normal. It's just, yeah, we've been, you know, it's just life is normal. Why are they so scared?
You know, bottom line, if we had an hour, we can delve into the politics here in Washington and King County and the Seattle area. But what it comes down to at the end of the day is money. This church, a United Methodist Church, you know, denomination, you know, they need money from the county. They need money from the state to maintain operations. And you probably know that many churches across America are shutting down due to falling membership. A lot of these churches are now being turned into homeless encampments and also migrant camps. So they've got to, you know, do their best not to bring extra scrutiny and spotlight to all the problems, the 911 calls. Nobody's talking about that. The drain on local resources when you allow these encampments to flourish, it really is no end in sight right now. No end in sight. Well, let's go back to California with Rob, and let's show what Gavin Newsom is saying. He proposes, this is June 6th, proposes defunding the police, the prisons, public safety as California faces massive deficit. Oh yeah, that'll be good, Rob. Let's just defund everybody. That'll help the budget.
Yeah, it's shocking that here in California we have a deficit, Governor Mussolini, especially after you've provided free health care for all the folks that are coming in illegally to this state. I was born in this state. I have been a citizen of this state since, well, every day of my life. And I've watched this governor take one of the most resplendent states in the union and single-handedly destroy it. And saying there's a deficit, one of the reasons why there's a deficit, Governor, is because you've made it impossible for businesses to survive here, and they've exited this state. More people have left the state of California than came here during the Dust Bowl. And now you're wondering that you have a deficit. And what do you want to do? You want to endanger the rest of the citizenry by defunding the police. Brilliant. That's a great way to destroy what's left.
Well, you know, that's an interesting statistic you just said. More people have left California than what came there during the Dust Bowl. Wow. Yeah. That's staggering. All right, Jonathan, before you go, I want to get your take on all of this. What's the answer?
The answer is somebody needs to take responsibility and enforce the laws right now. You know, pretty much everyone's kicking the can down the road. These local officials in Tukwila, they're saying it's the county's problem. The county's saying it's the state's problem. The state's saying it's, you know, on the federal authorities. And we know what's happening with Biden's border right now. So, again, as I said, there's no end in sight, and we just have to maintain and hope for the best.
Yes, we do. All right. Thank you. Thank you for coming by today, Jonathan. And we'll keep check on that story, and we'll be tracking it as it goes. All right. Well, let me show you this. Recently, we sat down with Coach Joe Kennedy. You may remember Coach Joe. He's the one that lost his job because he prayed. Let's check in on him and see what happened. Watch. It was in 2022, something happened to my next guest, Coach Joe Kennedy. You got a ruling from the Supreme Court that said you were okay to pray on the field. Remind everybody of the story of what happened.
Right. So I prayed on the football field after every game. It was my covenant with God just to give thanks. It was something so simple. Sometimes it was with the players, sometimes it wasn't. It was all dependent. Sure. But for 8 years, I did that religiously. In the 8th year, we got a compliment from another school district. It started an investigation, which came to my termination, where they gave me the option to either give up my prayer or be fired. And that was a simple one. I continued to pray. We took it to court and lost 7 times in a row over a period of 8 years.
Well, I didn't realize you lost 7 times.
Yeah, it was rough. Rough 7, 8 years, yeah.
Wow. Well, all right. So how did that change your life, Joe?
Immensely, because it was something so simple. Nothing is newsworthy as far as I was concerned. A prayer shouldn't be a big deal.
Well, yeah, because they're praying at the NFL. You see that all the time. I mean, you would think it would be you think you would embrace that. The people would want that.
Right. Of all the things I get fired for, I could give you a whole list of other things I should have been fired for. Yeah. So, yeah, it completely turned our life upside down, my families, and we were on the fight of our life. But millions and millions of Americans came to my side and really stood up, not even just on the religious side, but on the First Amendment side, the freedom of speech.
Yeah, and for the freedom of speech side it does come over. There really is no separation, because if you don't have freedom to pray or freedom to say what you want, then there's no freedom of religion.
Absolutely.
So they're inextricably committed to each other. All right, so this is story. It was made big headlines. You got your job back. You went back to school. What happened?
I went back to the school. They did not receive me very well, as you can imagine. The football program, they did the best they could. I got to give them credit. But the school district made it very hostile. It was not a good situation for anybody. I did stay for the first game, so fall camp, finish the first game, and it was such a blessing to be able to walk back out there, take a knee after that game, and God made it perfect. Nobody made a big deal about it. Said my prayer, walked off the field, and shortly after I resigned.
Right.
It was better for everyone.
So with 7 years of that, there was a whole new group of kids that have obviously come through.
Right. They were in grade schools when this all happened.
Wow. So did you get much response from the students during all that time?
Oh, my former players, absolutely. I've stayed in touch with them. I've been to their weddings. I performed a wedding, seen their childbirths, graduations, everything. It's amazing to see it.
Well, that's good. All right. So, but what's the big news? The reason we're here today is not to retell the story, but Joe's got a movie coming out this fall. Tell us about the movie Average Joe.
Well, the book came out a couple months ago, Average Joe, and we've been in discussion and production of the movie Average Joe, and it's a whole story of my life and my wife's life. So it's a great, inspiring story. It's a love story of the love of me and my wife, the love of our country, and our battle together to fight for what is right, and us making it together.
Well, that's good. So it's going to be. It's not going to be just a streaming release. It's going to be a theatrical release.
Right.
As well.
Theatrical release this fall. Eric Close is starring in it along with Amy Acker. So it's just amazing to see your story up on a big screen. It's kind of weird.
I bet it is a little weird. All right. We'll be showing you trailers for that film as we get closer. How can people follow you and follow the film as things get closer?
You could go to my website, joekennedy.com. Pretty simple to find. I'm also on social media everywhere. And read the book and you can get the background on it.
All right. Joe Kennedy, thanks, Coach.
Thank you, brother.
All right. So there's one instance, Rob, of things that worked out the right way. I mean, he won the case, which was a landmark case for freedom of speech.
Well, the minute that Coach Kennedy stood and exercised his religious liberty, he already won. Right. Regardless of the 7 times that they would not rule in his favor, he stood. And liberty, or I should say inalienable rights, are like muscles. If you don't exercise them, you lose them. And he exercised those. And I believe Coach Kennedy was a Marine. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. He's just full of grit, and he's tough. But I loved his quote. He said, "No American should be forced to choose between their faith and the job they love." That's America. And Coach Kennedy stood for that. And kudos to him. He is, and his wife too, they are a great blessing to this nation. God bless you.
They indeed are. All right, we're going to go to break. When we come back, much more. And you better be careful flying that Trump flag behind your truck. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We'll talk about it. No class system. Everybody's neutral. You want more information? 2024 FlashPoint.live, FlashPoint.live. And it's a free event. You can sign up and be a part. Come join us. Listen, we've got Lance Wallnau will be there, Hank Kuhneman, Rick Green, Chris Ann Hall, Luke Ball, and we're doing a special preview of the film in conjunction with Angel Studios, Sound of Hope. Freedom of Hope. No, Sound of Hope. It's a great true story about what happened here in East Texas. You don't want to miss. This is a great film, and we're going to talk with some of the producers. They're going to send us a few people. We're going to talk about that film. It's free. You don't have to pay. It doesn't release to July 4th, but if you're there, you'll get to see that film in its entirety at FlashPoint. So join us. We look forward to seeing you there. All right, let me show you this clip. You may remember. Let's go back to 2020 and remember all of those rallies everywhere, people rallying around and people lining the bay with their boats all decked out and driving their trucks down the freeway with Trump flags. And you remember that? Let me just take you back in time. Watch.
Funniest thing I've ever seen, man. They're like chasing him. This is in New Braunfels right now. And they're like, they got, look at this. They're like literally escorting him out of town on the Trump flags.
All right, so that's right there, not too far from here in New Braunfels, Texas, south of here. And as you can see, the Biden-Harris bus was escorted out by a bunch of patriots there with their Trump flags. One of those was Joy Lamasaros and her husband Robert, but they're being sued suddenly by Biden's White House. The Democrat politicians in federal court. Now listen to this. Here's the charge for simply driving next to the Biden bus during its campaign in 2020. Welcome to the program, Joy Lynn. What were you guys doing? I mean, that was horrible. I can't believe you would drive on the freeway.
Well, despite Biden himself saying we ran the bus off the road and mainstream media headlines claiming that we were domestic terrorists and threats to democracy, which, by the way, is a constitutional republic, we were simply exercising our right to free speech in the exact same capacity that the Biden-Harris campaign were during 2020. We wanted to show our support for President Trump. You guys showed that tweet there on the screen. He said, "I love Texas." He talked about it at a rally. And 8 months later, the occupants of the bus were then White House officials who sued us in federal court under the Ku Klux Klan law with 0 criminal charges. They said they had emotional damage, Gene.
All right, so you came on the program. We talked to you guys right after this happened several years ago. Hard to believe it's been that long. And now suddenly, when did this all come down?
So it's actually been going on for 4 years. We have not had the media coverage we expected to have. The incident went viral. Then after we found out we were getting sued, right-wing media did not want to pick up the story. You guys have been faithful to give us a voice from the beginning. And despite not 1, not 2, but 3 attempts to get this frivolous lawsuit dismissed, we are headed to trial by jury in September. We have an Obama-appointed judge, a gag order. We have all the lawfare works that Trump gets as his supporters. And we have watched them drag us through mainstream media for nearly 4 years. And in the impeachment trial against Trump, saying that we were the precursor to the insurrection at the Capitol. And then in the 14th Amendment hearing, the same experts that have been hired to portray us as political extremists testified that Trump was not fit to be on the ballot. So what we're seeing is that average Americans like our family and others are being used as collateral damage to interfere with presidential elections and to chill free speech. And I'm going to tell you, Gene, right now, not on my watch.
All right, so let me just kind of re-emphasize this to everybody watching. Robert's a plumber, Joey Lynn's a homeschool mom. They were just trying to live their American dream with their family. And as you heard, if it can happen to Trump, it can happen to you. So let me ask you the response you've gotten from your friends and neighbors with all of this. What's that been like?
Well, initially it was chaos. And the reason for that is we were just brand new Trump supporters. I was not sure in 2020 if I was going to vote for Biden or Trump. That is how unaware of what was going on I was. I was not awake to what was happening. Now I'm a homeschool mom. You know, now I've got the backyard chickens. I bake my own bread. But at that time, my son was going to public school. Our friends were pretty progressive. And so when we said we were voting for Trump and then this came out in the news, they were canceling us. They were unfriending us. We were uninvited to church, to, home groups, to Thanksgiving, Christmas. It was shocking. Since then, though, I can tell you we have found our people, the true patriots that love their country, and we've become educated on what our constitutional rights are. Gene, I didn't even know I had a basic right to free speech, and Rick Green loves to laugh about that. And so now I'm on fire. I'm an advocate for educating people on what their basic rights are. And just like we heard just a few moments ago, these constitutional rights are like muscles. The more you exercise them, the stronger they are. We can't let them go, but we have to be doing a good job of talking about it. So I have found my voice in this, and I praise God for that. Well, now,
there's a piece in there that you kind of whizzed right by that I didn't know before. You didn't know if you were going to vote for Biden or Trump. And Rob, let me bring you in there. I mean, this is America right here. They didn't know if they were going to vote for either one until they kind of got drug into this mess.
I'm captivated. I'm watching the show. I'm not a participant. I was so enthralled by your story. I would say that, you know, they're getting brought before a jury and judge and all that mess with lawfare.
Right.
While sitting Supreme Court justices can have protesters in front of their house threatening their life and nothing happens. I am so grateful for what you and your husband are doing.
Yes.
It's remarkable. And like I said to the last guest, Jonathan, I say to the two of you, you've already won. You are representing the American people. And like Jenny Donnelly, who was apolitical in Oregon, now she's moving the largest segment that voted for Biden, which is white middle-class moms. And she's changing the entire landscape because she's been activated. God bless you.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
All right, so you guys, you depleted your 401k just to keep an attorney, and you got hundreds of thousands in legal fees. You got the burden of proving your innocence. But every time I see you, Joy Lynn, you're smiling, you're laughing, you're having a good time. How do you do that?
It is God. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. And Gene, we are weak. We are worn out. We are tired. We are weary. The process is the punishment of lawfare. I have learned that very well. I believe we will win when we make it to trial, even though they tried to force us to settle. A couple of months ago, they filed an order with the judge to try to force us to settle. But we believe we are going to use their own evidence against them to vindicate ourselves and prove the truth. And for me, when I look at my son, his peers, when I look out and I see that the harvest is ripe, and I know that what God has called us to do, to bring truth, to expose darkness, there's no option but to fight. And when I understood that men and women died to establish the freedoms and to defend the freedoms that came from the cross. Jesus died so that we could be free. And in America, this beautiful experiment of governing ourselves, we have to defend those freedoms. And so it is our privilege to fight this fight, and God sustains us day by day. And it has been with the help of people like y'all giving us a voice, the FlashPoint Army, and we the people, because First Amendment rights nonprofits will not pick up our case because it's political. They prefer religious matters. They prefer religious freedom under the First Amendment. Our elected officials don't want to get involved. And so it's been a grassroots movement to get this far.
Yeah, and the truth is, though, freedom of religion is freedom of speech, but that's a whole nother show. All right, so, you know, Jason, producer Jason has an office near mine, and so when he wasn't looking, I kind of went in and stole a cup. Biden is the worst. Free speech. What is this about?
Gene, we live in a German town that celebrates Wurst Fest, which, if you don't know, it's a German tradition, a 10-day salute to sausage. And so in 2021, I made a shirt for myself that said, Biden is the worst. And this was shortly after we got sued. I took over 600 orders to make those shirts from complete strangers. And then people were still trying to figure out where to get them. So we made signs. Then people wanted to buy the signs. And God used this as an amazing way to help us fundraise our legal defense. We have shipped shirts and signs to all 50 states and to places like Scotland, Africa, Norway, England. People around the world agree he is the worst. And so all of that merchandise is available at freespeechdefender.com, which is where people can follow our story, share our story, and support us. All right, so Free Speech Defender. If they want to follow what's going on, they can go there and see you guys. Joey Lynn, what is it you're going to do after you get this, after this goes away and you prove your innocence? What's next? Because we just want to be there to follow. God. I love you guys. I want to be a part of what y'all are doing. I want to be a part of what Rick Green is doing. When I went to FlashPoint Live in Lubbock, Rick put up a checklist on the screen of things that we need to be doing right now to do our part as Christians in America to turn the tide. And I was able to check off every single one of those boxes as far as volunteering for a local campaign, going to city council, library board meetings, you know, those kinds of things. But the one thing I didn't check off was hosting or attending a class through Patriot Academy. So today I am hosting my very first biblical citizenship class, because people are hungry for truth. They're hungry for knowledge, and they want to know what they can do and to go out and shine as a light in the darkness. And so I hope God uses us to inspire people to learn their basic rights and that they would go on and do the same thing. And I want to go wherever the Lord takes me, but I believe it's going to be defending free speech. That's great. Rob, what do you think?
I'm going to tell you right now, Joylyn, and also your husband, you guys are welcome to come to California. You'll be our guests at Godspeak. We're going to support you. The FlashPoint Army is the strongest army for the Lord, as I've come to realize across this country, and I would encourage all the viewers and listeners to support this effort for free speech. Bless you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Blown away by you. Hey, just please keep going. It's awesome.
Yeah, we need to get you at another FlashPoint Live to get you in there let you talk and meet the people. That'd be great. All right.
This is what we need. Thank you, Gene.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Pastor.
All right, Pastor Rob, why don't you pray for her before we close out this segment?
All right. Lord, I thank you for Joylyn and her husband, and I thank you for the fact that you haven't given them a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And Lord, they have given it all to you, and anything given to you first will never be lost. And so, Lord, you're gonna restore the years the locusts have eaten, and the joy that she possesses and her husband possesses is the direct result of a peace that surpasses all understanding. God, when your work done your way will never want for anything. And so, Lord, please provide for this precious couple. Use them for your glory. Cover them, encourage them, and let them not grow weary in well-doing. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you, Joylyn. Keep greetings to your husband, Robert, and we will stay in touch.
Thank you, Gene. I'll make sure to drop a coffee mug in the mail for you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let me show you this, Rob. This is President Donald J. Trump News posted this. Patriot put a Trump flag on his dock, and the HOA told him to remove it. A day later, he wrapped his boat, and this was their reaction. Let's play the video.
Fenway, I'd love to play with you.
Fenway. Hey.
This is unbelievable. He's just sticking his middle finger on him. He's doing this.
All right, you know, the reason I wanted to play that whole clip, no matter who you vote for, that right there is America. Tell us, oh, you take down the flag? Okay, I'll wrap my boat in what I think. Here's the boat wrapped in the flag and who I want. It's pretty amazing, wasn't it, Rob?
Yeah, it is. And it's reminiscent of Trump himself, because in Mar-a-Lago, they said that the flagpole could only be so many feet above the ground. So he made the hill bigger so he could have the flagpole higher. That's we love America. We want to celebrate. That's America. All right, Sean Foyt, I want to show you what happened in West Virginia with a friend named Hayden. Listen to this young man and Sean Foyt. This is what we do. Watch.
Hey guys, we are here in Charleston, West Virginia, and I'm with Hayden. He's 16 years old. We just finished worship, Kingdom in the Capitol here. And check this out, guys. God is using this next generation to rewrite the story of revival in their states. Hayden wrote a bill for this state that was passed in this building, that was passed in the Senate. Tell them about it.
So the bill would allow for intelligent design to be talked about in schools along with evolution, which is basically just a way of getting God back in schools. It's vital that the students in my generation know about God, because it starts at the youngest level. If students grow up without God, then the odds of them finding him are drastically lowered. So if you start at a young age, they can grow up with God and they can know that someone is there with them and for them, and getting this taught in the schools will help that God grow inside of them and Jesus be there with them.
Come on, guys, look at this. I mean, don't let anyone look down on you because of your youth, but rise up like Hayden did. Listen, God is using this generation to do stuff we never dreamed of, from revival to reformation. Dude, you're a rock star.
Thank you very much.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, there you go. Rob, that's what it's talking about, the next generation. If we don't do our job now for this next generation, they won't have an America that we had. Your thoughts?
No. Yeah, I love Sean Foyt because he is the most optimistic, joyful human being I've ever met. Like Reagan said, you can put a guy like Sean in a room full of manure and come back in an hour and he'll be covered in manure digging. And you'll ask him, why is he so happy with a smile on his face? He said, with this much manure, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. That's Sean Foyt. And he imparts that to the next generation. He celebrates the next generation. He inspires the next generation. And they are rising up to this occasion. They're getting tired of this mess. They're the ones that are most deeply affected by the secular progressive left. And they're tired of their generation being beat up. I have great hope for this country because of young men like Hayden.
I agree. Yeah, we do have great. There's more youth that are standing up, and I think that's one of the most encouraging things that we're seeing. All right, I want to get this final story in because so many of us heard this a few years ago. It's Russia, and it's propaganda. You guys, you Trumpers, you Christian nationalists, you're all saying that the Hunter's laptop is real. It's not real. Well, just so happens the FBI just admitted in court that Hunter Biden's laptop is real. 20 minutes of Joe Biden, U.S. intelligence officials, and the American media claiming that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. The FBI had possession of Hunter's laptop and since December 2019. Hello, people. 2019. That's what was going on there. Whether you like Trump or not, this was wrong. I don't care who you're voting for. With this particular instance, this was wrong. To hold something from the American public, it's absolutely wrong. Watch this.
And tonight, the Trump campaign is accusing Twitter and Facebook of censorship after the social media companies blocked the spread of an unverified story about former Vice President Joe Biden's son and a laptop allegedly full of his old emails. It's a story raising concerns about whether it's real or just designed to sow confusion in the final weeks of the election.
Experts say it has all the hallmarks of information laundering.
This looks like your classic disinformation campaign.
Eric O'Neill is a former FBI operative.
Steal the information with a cyber attack, get the emails from Hunter Biden's account, and then put them on these laptops that are left at a repair store. And that's how the information is now laundered into the public.
Who do you think is behind this?
Well, the Russians would be my number one guess.
Social media outlets were quick to limit the spread of the story. Twitter briefly suspending the accounts of the Trump campaign and White House press secretary after they tried to share it.
Twitter and Facebook have limited the distribution of that Hunter Biden story. And last night, Twitter appeared to suspend the Twitter account of White House press secretary Kayleigh McEnany when she tried to share that story.
Damn. You know a story is shady when Facebook is saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Maybe people shouldn't see this.
For a long time. All right, so this keeps going on and on, Rob. You know, when we're seeing this about how it was the Russia collusion, Russia disinformation campaign. I wonder how many things Russia's taken the hit on that they had nothing to do with.
Yeah, when in doubt, just blame Russia. Or when you're in trouble, blame Russia. I would point out that every single intelligent official that signed that letter stating that that was Russian disinformation and Russian interference, that they need to immediately lose their top clearance. They need to be removed. That every one of those folks is complicit to what's occurred. They knew what was on that laptop from day one. And if you want to talk about election interference, that's it right there. It's not hush money. It's not coming after him for charges you can't even define or a law that the president even broke. This is election interference, and that should be prosecuted. But there's a two-tier justice system, sadly.
There sure is. There is, for sure. Let me show you this CNN talking to Andrew McCabe. Look what he had to say. Watch.
I have a lot of conversations with former colleagues, people who are or were in the intelligence and law enforcement community and may have worked in, the Obama administration, other places. And, people are really trying to assess, what is life going to be like if Donald Trump wins a second term? And on a very personal level, these are torturous discussions with their family members about whether or not they have to leave the country to avoid being unconstitutionally and illegally detained.
Oh, this is just, they're leaving the country, Rob, because of Trump. Oh. I'm like, thank you. Make some more room for all the migrants you let in.
Crocodile tears.
Yeah.
And it's, they're always accusing the right of exactly what they're doing. They're the ones who have violated the Constitution. They're the ones that have created lawfare. And now they're going to have to, get what's due. They're going to face justice according to the U.S. Constitution, not judicial fiat where Manchin pulls out anything he wants to try to have the president found guilty. They're just scared, and that's exciting to me because they should be. They should be very scared. They're going to prison if President Trump does his job right.
Well, let me ask you your opinion, Rob. I ask most of our guests when they come on here, what do they think we're going to see in the last few months of this election process? Do you think, first off, do you think Biden will actually be the candidate for the Democrat Party?
Gosh, Gene, I've heard so many different scenarios. The one thing I do know is it's not going to continue this way in some capacity. They're going to have October surprise. They'll have a September surprise. They're going to have surprises all the way up to the very end. And even, 30 days after the election, they're still going to try to manufacture something. They're going to do everything they can. You can see that McCabe and all the others that are in the intelligence community, they're scared. And so they're going to have to do everything they can. They don't want anything released to the general public. They don't want anyone to know what they've been doing for 4 years. And so I wouldn't put anything past them, Gene. I really wouldn't. And my biggest concern, and that's why, that I pray for the president, is an attempt on his life.
Yeah, I think it's very, very real. You're right. It is that corrupt. It's that level. How do you, you're a pastor of a church, so speak as a pastor here. How do you, what do you tell your congregation, Rob, about how to pray for this upcoming election?
Yeah, so the Bible says your sins will find you out, and sin is pleasurable for a season, but the end therein is death. And the idea is, Lord, for those that are wayward, would you keep that season short? Would you create an awakening across the country? And I encourage the congregation that those who have differing political views are not the enemy; they're the opportunity. Their ideology is the enemy, but the person himself is the object that we're to pursue. And so we have to differentiate, and we're to speak the truth in love. We don't compromise on the truth, but in some cases, in the absence of courage, truth is an orphan, and that's why Joey Lynn and others like that, and Jonathan, that are standing in the midst of this, inspires the congregation. And so I just tell the members of my congregation, do your civic duty, stand for truth in your workplace, in your circle of influence, your sphere of influence. And that's what we do. And a missionary goes where he's not loved but needed, and leaves when he's no longer needed but loved. And that's what we do in the community and where God has planted us. And that's what I encourage them to do, and all Americans to do.
Words well spoken. Well spoken. Well, as we said earlier in the show, today's the 80th anniversary of D-Day, a date that holds a very special place in our history, as it was truly the turning point of World War II. And as the years have continued to pass and we see more and more of those true American heroes passing into eternity, many times we would wonder, how would we react if faced with the same circumstances? Would we rise to the occasion? Reflecting on our world in this moment, it's difficult to see how we could get to that place once again. However, I believe it's important for us to remember that just as God brought our country through that horrific time in history, He will also bring us through the trials that we face now. It's only through our reliance on Him, and that's the key, our dedication to Him and His love for us, that we will once again see victory in our world and in our nation. So today, we honor all of those that served on that day and those that paid the ultimate sacrifice on June 6th, 1944. May they forever be remembered for their heroism, their bravery, and dedication to the United States of America. Thank you. And to the families, thank you for everyone. And to the families of every veteran who has served since then, thank you. This is a time we've recently come through Memorial Day. We've come through now through remembering D-Day 80 years ago. It's a time when we need to stop and think back. You probably have family members that fought in a war. You may even have those that were lost during a war. We can't let that go. We can't forget what has happened before us. And Rob, This is the part about what makes America great. Yes, it's the guy that he's told to take the flag off his boat and he wraps his boat on the flag. It's that part, but this is the other side of that, the side of Americans that say, we're not going to back down. We're not, you want to do this? Well, guess what? We'll do that. We're going to stand up. We're going to push further. We're going to stand up for who we are. That's truly an American quality, isn't it?
It is. You know, Gene, when I was a young boy, 4th of July parade, you'd have the Pearl Harbor survivors going by and those who were participating in D-Day. And it seemed like it was the longest part of the parade. And now you go and there's maybe one or two. And in another 10 years, there won't be any left. And I'd just like to conclude with a story, if I could, Gene, with my godfather. When I was running for the state assembly, I was running out of money. I was getting carpet bombed by my own party. And I went to go visit him. My mom had passed away. My dad was in a home with Alzheimer's. So he was the patriarch of our family. And he was a retired rear admiral. And he was 99 years young. And I went to visit him. He says, how's it going? And I said, I'm getting carpet bombed by my own party, and I'm out of money, and I feel like I've led these folks on a rosy road to nowhere. And he yelled at me. He said, stop it. He says, you don't know tough. He said, I was 16 years old in the Great Depression, didn't know where my next meal would come from. And he said, I was in Pearl Harbor on December 7th, and they sunk my ship. We lifted it from the bottom of the Pacific Ocean and took on a two-fronted war and brought them both to their knees and set up constitutional republics in both nations. Now quit whining and go finish what you started. That's that generation.
Wow. What a great story. And that's exactly right. We can all find something to complain about or whine about, but standing up for your nation is important. Thank you for watching. All right, listen, I want to remind you again, we're coming to Ohio, June 27th and 28th. I want to see you there with all of the guest speakers. But one of the great things that I don't get to talk about much is not just the flash talks, and because that's part of it, but the fact that we see people from all across America. They're not just from that local area. Last year we saw Pennsylvania, Carolinas, they came from all over. That they start, and when they come, they find people that believe just like you do. And then you may even find people, we found people that came from the same town, didn't know each other, and they lived in a blue state, and they're going, wow. I mean, there's people that still believe like we do. That's what's so great about these FlashPoint, these events, the Rescue America Tour, is for you to meet other people who believe just like you do. And then you go home and you keep that connection. This is truly one of the reasons why we're instructed in Scripture to not forsake the assembling of ourselves together. It's not just so that you can learn the Word, praise and worship together. It's so that you can understand who you are as an American. And so you can understand who you are as a believer, as a Christian, and why you and I cannot back down. We can't let this go. We can't just decide to give up and walk away. We need Rob McCoy's dad to say, get over it. Stand up. Be who you're supposed to be. Now get back out there and finish the fight. And that's what we're going to do, because they've declared war, but they've declared war on warriors. That's you and me. All right, let me thank, of course, Pastor Rob McCoy, Jonathan Show, Joey Lynn Massaros, and, of course, Coach Joe Kennedy. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of FlashPoint. Listen, so much more to come. Keep your faith up. Stay engaged. And we're going to see you next week. But those of you watching on the Victory Channel, Miracles on the Mountain is coming up next. Remember, FlashPoint, we're always, to the right of center. We'll see you next time.